Welcome to the Leaking Timeline, my friends, that one place on the dial where we acknowledge the time is leaking sideways and we like it. I'm Eric Newton. I'm here as always with Guy Singstock. How's it going, Guy?
It's going really great. I'm stoked about our guest today.
Wait,
How are you doing? How are you doing, my big hunk of pure platonic bliss?
Pure platonic bliss. That's a good one. I'm pretty good. I got to tell you, man, I took the plunge last night. I finally did it. I took my first peptide ever. I jabbed myself right in the belly fat with some Retta. And I'm pretty excited about it.
You're already sounding pretty peppy to me.
Well, the problem is I think it does the opposite. I think the whole thing about Retta is it takes the edge off, and it does. I mean, one day in, people say it takes a while to kick in, but man, my hunger is obliterated. It's not just the hunger either. It's like the edge on everything is just obliterated. I haven't decided if that's good or bad. I mean, I like my edge.
Yeah.
But I also hate my edge. You know, it's kind of it's a love-hate kind of thing.
Well, speaking of obliteration and end of edges, I am stoked about our guest today.
Yeah, we have OG Rose, right?
Yeah, totally. And OG stands out to me as a unique, deeply independent philosopher and thinker. His interests go in all directions. I've heard him talk about everything. He's super well read, right, in the whole philosophical tradition. I think he's even written books on poetry and fiction. Him and his wife live in Virginia with his family and his greater family. And the thing I love about listening to Daniel or OG Rose is that he doesn't dwell in abstractions for the abstraction's sake, like a lot of philosophers do. He is essentially about the concrete livingness of our situation. And he takes those things that are most familiar to us and goes deep and utilizes all of the past thoughts to really bring down to ultimately how to live a good life.
Well,
and he does that with such hospitality.
That's what it comes down to. Well, that's our music. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages with more on Leaking Timeline and OG Rose.
This important consumer alert is from the Credit Repair Hotline, a national service designed to help people improve their credit scores. Are you paying high interest rates because of your credit rating? Wouldn't you like to be able to qualify for a better car loan or mortgage rate? Would lower monthly payments give you more financial flexibility? If you're finally ready to fix your credit problem, you need to call today and get a free consultation from the Credit Repair Hotline. In one fast and easy call, we can pull your credit rating and show you real solutions how to improve your credit. And again, this is part of a 100% free consultation. Learn how you can save money on everyday purchases by having a better credit rating. And it all starts with this free phone call right now.
800-413-6214. 800-413-6214. 800-413-6214. That's 800-413-6214.
$12.5 billion. That's what Americans lost to fraud last year alone. And the scams targeting seniors are getting smarter. AI-generated voices, emails that look perfect. So I built a weekly scam alert specifically for seniors. Every Tuesday, you get a plain language email about the latest threats, what to watch for, what to delete. It's completely free. Just enter your email. And if you want more protection, we've got that too. StopThisScam.com. That's StopThisScam.com.
This deer season, John Deere wants to give you the home field advantage. We're bringing you the best offers of the season, whether that's cash off on select new machines or a shot at the ultimate Major League Baseball prize package. Because right now, you can enter for a chance to win an MLB All-Star experience for you and 3 friends, complete with travel and lodging for All-Star Week this July. Deer season is going on now through June 3rd. Visit johndeere.com/deer season to enter and view the offers and complete contest rules. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt. Hi, I'm the tax doctor. Call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems. And the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now.
800-603-9359. 800-603-9359. 800-603-9359. That's 800-603-9359.
Welcome back to the Leaking Timeline with Eric and Guy. We're here talking with OG Rose today, and you can join the conversation at 800-878-7529. We'd love to hear from you. So, OG, is that OG as in original gangster, or is that something else?
It's funny, when my wife and I came up with that pen name, we didn't even know about Original Gangster, but we know very well about it now. It's a combination of my wife's last name, Opperman, maiden last name, and her grandmother's name, Rose, and Garner, so OG Rose. And we started back in 2011 with fiction, creative writing. We do a lot of philosophy and things like that.
So it's a pen name for fiction and creative writing, and also for philosophy, if Guy is telling me what's true.
Absolutely. We really believe that there's a whole lot of fertile thinking between creative writing, art, and philosophy, and that's where we want to locate ourselves. We actually think that philosophy thinking art and art thinking philosophically will bring out the best of both. So we situate ourselves in the middle of both of those.
What does that mean? Art thinking philosophically and philosophy thinking artistically. Tell me more.
That is an excellent question. So in our experience, many times creative writing classes, literary fiction, if you try to bring in philosophical ideas to the writing, the teacher or the professor gets upset with you and say, don't do that. Just focus on the characters, on their emotional expression. Don't make it too philosophical. And then also philosophers are like, well, I personally want to really focus on what it's like to write a novel, or what it's like to be caught up in a painting. Like, what is exactly going on with the human being, not merely in the product of, say, writing, but in writing itself, and to locate philosophy and theology in that experience. And I think there's a whole lot to be found in that. And in my opinion, where creative writing has kind of given up or abandoned a lot of the philosophical thoughts, then we lose a lot of the stakes that make people want to read literature, whether it be Dostoevsky or all of these other great, I can start going down. These writers really believe that literature could change the world, and they really wanted to think deeply and bring that into their text, not just to make the characters mouthpieces for ideas, but to have the ideas in the background, that the characters had to live in such a manner that forced them to ask themselves, what were they going to do about these ideas, making their world in the world around them? And I think that bringing philosophy into literature can really give it a new life today.
Yeah, that's extremely compelling. I wonder, you said that, that you want to find the philosophy in the work of creating the art. Does that apply to all of, do you think of that as finding the philosophy in everything that you do? And the theology?
That's magnificent. That's magnificent. I think philosophy needs to arise from encounters with the concrete world, between people. You should not go into experiences with philosophy and press them top down upon them. You should let your experiences glimmer forth, I want to say, give the ideas for them and surprise you, and let them surprise you. And if something comes up in your mind when you're, say, reading a book, or you're meeting someone, or you're taking a walk, honor that idea. Don't just let it pass out of your head. Like, meditate upon it, write it down, and come back to it. I think that is where philosophy, in the lived experience, in the encounter, in the putting yourself out there, that's where philosophy finds its proper origin. And I think, though, unfortunately, some people can think that philosophy needs to come from reading old stuffy books or being in the library. And of course, there's a place for that. But many of the writers of those old stuffy books, their philosophy came from, say, Aristotle going and classifying sea animals, or people taking walks in the woods. So doing that yourself can really breathe life into it.
And what is philosophy anyway?
Oh, that's a great question. So the classical idea would just be to say the love of wisdom. I think the philo is very important. I think it's tied to friendship. I actually think that it's hard to have friendship without philosophy, as distinct from associations. I think philosophy brings a quality of experience and a quality of conversation that deepens relationship. Also, with the idea of wonder, if I just play on that for a minute, there's a big difference between wondering, like, I wonder how batteries work, or I wonder, what that house is made of, versus the wonder that philosophy is talking about, where those moments where you're taken back, where you're struck with something, this kind of vastness of life, or this sort of beatific vision, as you'll hear people say, or that moment you fell in love with someone, those kind of wonders where something happened that you can't completely explain or fit into ideas that you then go on a quest to try to kind of orbit. That is the kind of wonder that philosophy is interested in. So I think about that often.
Theology?
It's a great question. Theology would be more of the study of God, but I actually think philosophy and theology should be strongly tied together, and they've gotten a little separated over the years. Questions in a manner that sees them through, you'll end up in theology, and I think theology should end up in philosophy as well.
It does seem like they need to merge up a bit more.
Yeah.
Guy, what were you going to say?
Respect. He said this one thing that has stuck me to be a philosopher. I get that about you, Daniel, and I'm curious, when did thought, in the way that we're talking about, strike you? How did you
That's a wonderful question, and thank you for what you said. I spent my childhood walking in the woods, but mostly coming up with science fiction stories in my head that I have to admit may not have been very good, but I was 8 at the time, and may have a lot of scribblings in boxes somewhere. And I really did naturally, I suppose, enjoy stories or think stories needed to bring in what I want to call ontological stakes, or stakes that entail real trade-offs. People could think stuff like the trolley problem, or if God exists, or different kind of ethical systems that create kind of conflicts that then force people to ask bigger questions. But I will say the first, what I want to call philosophical moment in my life was that I remember is I was reading the Redwall series. Remember that series where the mice were fighting at the Abbey? It was a really great series in the 5th grade. So I was supposed to be in bed, which means I was in a bathtub with a giant blanket reading it way late at night.
Classic.
And, I think it was Martin the Warrior. And so I'm reading it, and I had this moment where it just totally freaked me out. I went, oh my gosh, there's a movie playing in my head where I see a mouse with a sword, and yet I'm looking at black marks on paper. How is this possible? How can I have a movie playing in my head as I'm reading black marks on paper? It's like I'm here and not here at the same time. I'm seeing something that's here and not here at the same time. That, fancy word, phenomenology of reading, that experience and asking how was that possible, I would say was the kind of this beginning philosophical moment for me to really wonder, how is it you can be looking at black marks on paper and have a movie playing in your head?
Wow.
That is such a also compelling way to think about writing. Is that your job is to transport someone into an experience where they lose touch with what they're doing in the real world, in the physical world.
100%, which to me is like, for philosophy to take that possibility seriously, to write black marks and have people have a movie playing in their head that does not equal the black marks on paper. The word cat is obviously not the feline cat, and yet when they read, it's practically as if they are, even though they're technically distinct. The ability of human beings to do that, I think, is really, again, a fertile ground for philosophy to think. And really, to think the human being as what the human can do that is distinctly human. We can create these effects, we can experience these effects and make them for other people. Yeah. And if we really own that, who knows what we could unlock.
It really is amazing to think that really compelling literature creates that same movie in everyone's head. Moderated, different versions. Everybody has their own version of it, but they're very close. They're really quite extraordinarily close. And when you have people report on what they experienced reading a book, people who are deep fans of a particular kind of fiction will always report very similar experiences. That's an extraordinary skill. It's a fascinating ability that we humans have, and then as a writer, wow, what a privilege.
For me, that is an example of why there is communal and social possibility in art. If you're in a world where, something we talk about in our book series, Belonging Again, which is a lot of interested in sociology, thinkers like Peter Berger, Hunter, we talk about the loss of givens, where it is not given anymore that your neighbor shares the same beliefs of you, so on and so forth. So you don't have the same kind of shared foundations, which I would argue is a great opportunity. And this gets into a lot, but the point here is that what you see in the Creative Act is the possibility of making new shared experience that can bring people together. And if we can do that in art, what else can we do it in?
And is that the point for you, bringing people together?
I would say...
You know what? Sorry, I shouldn't ask that question because that is our commercial break, my friend. We'll be right back in a few minutes with more from OG Rose on the Leaking Timeline.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. The CareWatch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. Call us to get your CareWatch right now.
800-853-8931. 800-853-8931. 800-853-8931. That's 800-853-8931.
Sometimes life changes, and the house you once loved becomes a burden. Too many repairs, too many memories, too much to handle on your own. If you'd like to sell your home fast, we can help at the Home Buyers Hotline. We can help you sell your home as is. No cleaning, no showings, and there are absolutely no hidden fees or real estate commissions. We'll pay you a fair price for your home in cash. Whether you're downsizing, handling an estate, or just ready for peace of mind, call us. We'll help you walk away from your problem property in no time at all and get you the cash in your bank account with little hassles. If you'd like to sell your home fast, as is, we can help at the Home Buyers Hotline.
Call Want to Sell Your Home now for a free quote to sell your home in any condition. Call 800-950-3143. 800-950-3143. That's 800-950-3143. Right now, you can switch from cable television to satellite television for free. That's right, we're offering free equipment, free installation, plus get a free $100 prepaid Visa card. Call the Satellite TV hotline right now. Make the switch from cable to satellite television and expand your viewing horizon. On top of free installation, for a limited time, we're offering a fixed price guarantee. With Satellite TV, you'll save money over your expensive cable bill. Plus, get access to hundreds of channels. And when you call right now, you can also ask about our seniors and military discounts. So make the switch to Satellite TV right now. Everybody gets free installation, free equipment, plus a $100 prepaid Visa card. Call right now and you can switch to Satellite TV and be watching everything you wanted to within the next week. And remember, installation's free, so call right now. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
Welcome back to the Leaking Timeline with Eric and Guy. We're here today with Daniel Gardner, one half of the infamous OG Rose. You can join the conversation at 800-878-7529. And Guy, I got to tell you, it's such a privilege to have the superstars of philosophy on our show. What a great thing we get to ask these guys normal questions.
Well, speaking, now we want to break into the weird territory. So part of the reason I was really excited to have you on, Daniel, is because of the nature of the show, talking about our time. Of course, we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence, even about whether or not it can become conscious and the implications of that. And most of the people that we've talked to are people who are like at the edge of the field, where their closest friends are actually working on artificial intelligence, or they're actually people that are the people working on artificial intelligence. We haven't really had someone on who specifically isn't their work isn't involved in that, who is a thinker, right, and a philosopher. So one of the things I'm excited about is just to hear like some of your thoughts about like what is happening right now with the LM models, with all the talk of artificial intelligence, with the talk of it becoming conscious or not, that whole debate. What's what's happening in our time from your understanding?
That's an excellent question, and I will certainly not claim any expertise like some of the other guests have had. Michelle and I, my wife, we have 4 children, so we talk about this all the time, and we also talk about what it would mean to educate them, to prepare them for the future. You know, one of the distinctions, we taught a class on Ivan Illich a while with Andrew Sweeney and people, Parallax, and you know, I really like Ivan Illich. I think he's a very important thinker. And one of the things that he had me think about is the difference between planning and preparation. Planning is where you plan how to get to the store. Prepared is where you're prepared for the unexpected, where you don't know what's going to occur. I think basically we're entering an age where the name of the game is to be prepared versus good at planning, because
Amen.
you don't know what the future is going to bring, right? AI could change everything. And also, too, critically, if you're trying to plan your future, or you're trying to plan the next big idea that's going to make you a lot of money, AI can probably do it better. Like if you can plan it, AI can do it better. But prepared for opportunity that is a surprise, an encounter that comes up, to prepare for the unexpected. And critically, I think the name of the game is going to be prepared for what AI can't do that people don't realize AI can't do. Like the surprising things that AI can't do, actually. Because we actually aren't going to know. There's this, I guess my opening thoughts is there's a lot of conversation about everything that AI can do. But there are going to be things, in my opinion, that it can't do that you won't be able to predict ahead of time. You won't be able to know until they arise, right? But if you're prepared as a human being, if you have the abilities to recognize and to discern what that space is, what that opportunity is, and how actually maybe the human can flourish in that opportunity, then you'll jump in as opposed to despair. So we think a lot about an education that prepares versus set up people for plans. And I think, honestly, to the degree that humans in general prepare for the future is to the degree AI will be a tool and an opportunity. And to the degree they're dependent on planning is to the degree AI is an existential threat. And so it's really important to kind of change our orientation to what we need to do regarding the future. And I think about that a lot.
Now that's a strong statement, that the extent to which we plan is the extent to which it's an existential threat versus prepare. Can you define that a bit more clearly or support it?
Absolutely. And certainly I don't mean to say planning is bad. So for example, if you want to go to the grocery store, you will need a plan to leave at 5 o'clock and to go, right? The problem is we tend to have, people now tend to base their identity, their status, their success on their plans, their 5-year plans, their retirement plan, all of these things they're going to do. And you see, if you're dependent on planning, this is the key. It's okay to have a plan as long as you're not dependent on it, as long as you're not married to it. Because what's probably going to occur is if your identity is based on a job where you can plan or all of these different things, well, AI can probably do it, because if you can plan for it, that means you can make it intelligible to yourself. Well, that means AI can make it intelligible to itself as well. So you're setting yourself up to be replaced and then to be existentially broken by that replacement, right? When that occurs. And that's where you start getting into existential despair and existential risk. And when I say existential risk, I don't necessarily mean apocalypse. The word existential risk tends to become a simile for the end of the world or something. But existential risk can simply be your existence becomes meaningless. Your existence becomes a burden to yourself. You may live to be 80 years old, but you yourself feel burdened by your inability to live a life that has a distinct quality from, say, your tools, from the machines or things like that. But to the degree you're prepared to find out that AI can do more than you thought it could, and yet you're able to maintain a creative and I would say intrinsically motivated spark, is more that can actually be an opportunity and a forcing function to make you do things and to become things you otherwise may never become or do.
That seems right. So brass tacks, you've got kids. How do you do that?
Well, a big distinction for Ivan Illich is between enablement and disablement. And what he warns about is that technology tends to be used in a manner that disables us. So, for example, if you have cooking or refrigerators or ovens, you tend not to learn how to hunt and to make food yourself. And this isn't necessarily bad. But the problem is you've actually lost that skill and don't realize you've lost that skill because you still have access to food. So it's invisible to you, right? Like you've lost something and not realized you lost something. And that forms a dependency, and he calls this disablement. So the reason why I say all that is we want to make sure that every time our kids use the technology, whatever they're losing a skill in, they're making up another skill to replace it, right? They're not purely disabled, right? So for example, if they're using ChatGPT, because I think you do want to introduce children to AI and technologies. I don't think you want to keep it for them. That's actually going to set them up for surprise or despair or to make them fragile. But are they using ChatGPT to solve problems for them or to, for example, create creative scenarios? So, for example, there's a major difference between asking, hey, and I've been mentioning Dostoevsky today because I've been thinking about The Idiot, a novel of his. So, hey, what is The Idiot about? And you have ChatGPT tell you all of that. Versus, hey, what is The Idiot about that actually a lot of people have missed? And how would it be in conversation with Chekhov? Right? And so now you're creating a creative prompt. You're creating something that stimulates thought. And the kid also has to think of that prompt. And then as they're doing it, they're also asking these questions because they're looking for ideas because you as the parent have told them. They're looking for ideas to write a short story that they're going to actually make a game for. That's on the NES using a ChatGPT. So you have a creative through line that is going through, that is keeping the brain going. Now that's just one example, but the key overarching point is that all technology is trade-offs. It disables us in one way, but it can also enable us in another if we're intentional to make sure that enablement is occurring. So I think as a parent, you want to be paying attention to your kids to make sure that as they're using the technology, they are being enabled in new ways. And I think it is going to go a lot in more of a creative direction, the ability to actually see connections, see relationships, and make scenarios. And you as a parent, I think, need to make sure that spark is alive in your children.
So it's the trade-off element that's important to you in the discussion about disabilities. Disability?
Disablement, disability,
sorry,
absolutely.
Yeah, disablement. Because, obviously we've all been disabled with regards to our skills for example, making straw huts.
Yep.
But I'm sure you probably don't teach your kids how to make straw huts because it's irrelevant at this point. So, but you do show them how to find housing in the modern way. So is that how it is for you? Is as long as you're replacing it with something, it's fine. Some skill, some native ability, then disablement is inevitable and it's completely okay because that's the process of evolution.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, trade-offs are inevitable, but I think most people are unaware that there are trade-offs. And that's when one day they're setting themselves up to be caught off guard by the trade-off or surprised by the trade-off as opposed to being intentional about the trade-off. So yeah, you're not necessarily teaching your kids to build straw huts, but are you actually teaching them how to be able to facilitate conversation? Are they using AI in a manner where they're actually learning things that they can bring to the dinner table to have more engaging conversation? I think AI can actually be used to make people find things that are really interesting that they're then just bursting at the seams to talk about, right? Or are they using AI to avoid talking with people, right? Is it another way to look at it, is technology inspiring you in your relationships or is it replacing your relationships, right? And to be aware of that. In a trade-off, a trade-off if you're using AI to say be inspired on something, a trade-off is you're not getting it from a face-to-face person, right? But an enablement of it is you might be able to get a personalized education that you are actually really engaged with and energized with to the point that then you want to talk about it with your parents or your siblings because you've actually caught the love of learning.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing, that spark that you're talking about, right? It's like when I think about like LLMs, right? At some level, they're trained on past language, right? The difference between that and us is we have the past language, but we also have, we have the realm of known knowns, known unknowns, and then unknown unknowns, right? And it seems like the unknown unknown is the domain that kind of in some sense makes us human in a certain sense, right? And so what I'm hearing is like, if you could have a prompt that actually engages your thought or your perception to evoke something that you didn't know, then we're talking about something that actually helps you become more human. Is that fair to say?
That's very well put. I think
Well, that's actually, I'm going to ask you to hold that answer until after these messages. We'll be right back on the Leaking Timeline with more from OG Rose.
Do you want to add a boost to your sex life this weekend? Do you want to make your partner and yourself happy? Then call our special hotline now. We'll sell you those little pills that work below the belt for less than $1 a pill and deliver your package in a few days, just in time for the weekend. Our pill delivers almost the same results as expensive pills for less than $1 a piece, and you don't need a prescription. And ask about their buy 3 get 3 free offer. What are you waiting for? Boost your sex life and have a great time now. Less than $1 a pill, discreet delivery in a few days, and a buy 3 get 3 free offer? Dial this number and save it now.
800-245-2751. 800-245-2751. 800-245-2751. That's 800-245-2751. Paid for by the Pharmacy Shop.
Listen up, guys. Are you experiencing any of the following? Fatigue, less drive, poor performance? If so, you may be one of the nearly 30 million men in the U.S. today dealing with ED. But did you know you don't have to pay hundreds for a prescription anymore? And you don't have to deal with the hassle of seeing the doctor or the embarrassment of going to the pharmacy for a certain pill. Now, with one free call, you can find out how Herbal Virility Max can help you feel like a man again. For over a decade, Herbal Virility Max has helped guys just like you put a smile back on their face with improved performance and drive. Call today and ask about our buy one, get one free offer.
800-690-8223. 800-690-8223. 800-690-8223. That's 800-690-8223.
My mom asked me to explain AI to her. Not the hype, the real stuff. How to use it to prepare for a doctor's appointment or a meeting with a financial advisor. How to use it to spot a scam before it gets to her. I looked around and nobody had built anything like that for seniors. So I did. AIClassForSeniors.com, a plain language course built specifically for people 65 and older. No jargon, no tech background needed, just real answers. AIClassForSeniors.com.
Kohl's has styles that make summer feel easy, even when faced with hard decisions like lounging at the pool or on the patio, grilling up a hamburger or hot dog, rolling down the windows or turning up the AC. Yeah, summer is full of tough choices. With 15% off outfits your family will love, getting dressed isn't one of them. Shop effortless looks at Kohl's and Kohl's.com. Select styles. Offer ends May 17th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Welcome back to Leaking Timeline with Eric and Guy. We're here today with OG Rose talking about real-life philosophy on the ground with the family. You can join the conversation at 800-878-7529, and we'd love to hear from you. Now, Guy, you had just asked a question. We got cut off at the break. Can you give a quick recap?
Well, I mean, Daniel, you were talking about this spark, right? And keeping this, not letting the spark die because AI does everything for you versus having AI actually have you have an encounter with something that only you can have, right? Which is, whereas the AI has knowns and knowns unknowns, right? We have those things, but we also have the domain, for example, of the unknown unknowns, right? And so much of I believe that makes us human has to do with that we are always already in some sense aware of that realm and learn from that realm and reach it, and it reaches towards us. Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
Absolutely, and very, very well put. If I were to say to you that mountain range over there is unknowable, you probably would go, oh, okay, and we'll keep walking. But if I were to look at you and say, hey, that mountain range over there is unknown, ooh, ooh, adventure time. There's something exciting to do, right? We've basically existed, and I think philosophy, and I think education in general has fallen into this mistake. We basically treat things as either known. If they're knowable and known, they matter. And the rest is unknowable and doesn't matter. Because if it did matter, we'd already know it, actually. And therefore, our education and pedigree and all of that tends to be focused on it. But this is also a recipe for learning that is boredom, learning that is indifferent, and learning that is just trying to pass tests. But what if I were to say, actually, education is about being prepared for the unknown, to be able to handle the unknown, and to actually be able to go on an adventure into the unknown, actually. Oh, well, that's cool. That's interesting. I strongly believe that this actually is what education is about. And I think when you read Aristotle and many of the great philosophers, these guys were not, and women and thinkers all around the world, Kyoto School, etc., they're not like so much in the business of writing down what they know. They're in the business of trying to articulate like their approach towards something unknown and trying to, it's almost like walking around the edges of a crater, trying to figure out what was here, what was going on, and really believing that it matters. I think basically this has always been the heart of, it's a very gigantuous claim, has always been the heart of learning for humans. It's why we can love learning. And there's a way in which AI, as a kind of blessing, can be a forcing function to make us get back to this form of education and learning. We want to spend our lives relating to an unknown that we ever work every single day to realize more and more of. And I think you see that in children. I think children just get, like another kind of just, I almost want to say little test for if AI is being used correctly, is after your kid gets off to the computer, do they grab a notebook and start writing things down? And like, are they immediately like thinking through things or going and looking around? Like, do you see them just kind of leaping out of the chair to kind of actually continue the project that they were working on? And then do they come back to the computer with the project they were working on? And you see a kind of feedback loop between the digital and the real life, of which is connected by their imagination and hunger to kind of realize this thing that they sense inside of them that they want to realize more fully or to bring into the world. If you see your children doing that, and if you see yourself doing that, that tends to be a healthy sign of a good relationship with technology. But you really need to pay attention to that.
Do you see your kids doing that?
Yes. Yes, that's very important for us. Now, is this the part where I'm going to act as if the children are completely perfect in their relationship with technology? Of course not. They enjoy a good YouTube video just as much as I do. But the key, the overarching idea too, is I believe it's really important that the children, if the children see their parents talking about ideas, or they're engaged in conversation, and when they're talking, the parents don't have all the answers, are actually exploring with them, then actually that kind of culture in the house indirectly changes how they use the technology, because they also are trying to get into that conversation. They're also trying to think through things. And if the parents are encouraging them to explore things and to think them through, then they will naturally use the technology that way. I think also it's important for the parents to be using the technology that way, because if they see you using it to say, learn about Aristotle, and then you're writing your own paper and then having a conversation with your wife on actually how this can help your marriage, then actually what that does is have an impact on how they use the technology, right? Because you don't want to demonize YouTube videos. What you want to do is to create a more compelling and engaging vision of how to use the technology that just makes watching YouTube videos all day boring and unengaging. So that's important for us.
It's hugely useful. How old are your kids, by the way?
10, 8, 6, and 1 in 2 months.
Wow.
So,
okay.
You know, we have a band, an Americana band.
Well, I've got a 5-year-old, so I'm particularly
Nice.
interested in the 6-year-old. How's the 6-year-old engaging with AI at the moment, and what's healthy and what's not?
I think so much of it is you get the children interested in projects. So there's this kind of, it's always interesting to me, like Michelle and I will talk about this. Children kind of naturally like to make spaces and engage in projects, right? They just build forts, or like they get super excited about making a fire, right? So you make your, so there's a few things. You have your environment full of things that can catch their interest without you telling them. So if, for example, we have books everywhere. Do we tell our kids to read books? No, but if they're just everywhere, then they pick them up. They look at them, right? If they see you with the computer using it, like there's a very big difference between using, say, a computer to have a conversation like this and using a computer just to watch Netflix. Not that there's anything wrong with Netflix, right? That changes their disposition to it. We use the AI to help them learn how to read. You know, they can have the, you know, they're at the age where they're learning how to read, where they're interested in like The main thing also you can do is if they get really interested in, say, something about mathematics, they're able to find basically a world expert on mathematics to this would be the main point, to pursue their curiosity. I think that's for us kind of the big thing when the kids are really young, is to encourage their curiosity and let them pursue their curiosity, and having AI and all of the different technology facilitate that. Because, if, for example, I'm not a world expert on the making of hammers, Reed really likes tools, well, he can use AI to learn about the magnificence of hammers. And then once I know he's done that, it just happens to be the case that hammers are on the floor in the garage. So they come upon hammers in the floor in the garage, of which then are completely new to them. They appear to them in a new way. So thinking about how to set the environment up around the children that has these indirect things that they can come upon and thus feel are their own. Because if they just find the hammers on the floor of the garage, then it feels like they found them on the floor and it's their discovery and they're pursuing their own interests. So creating in your environment opportunities to make the kids feel like they're pursuing their own interests, of which correspond with the AI, then you get that feedback loop. The overarching point is you're always looking to design, not to instruct so much, to design feedback loops between the computer and the real world in the computer. You're looking for feedback loops.
That's a great idea, because if you don't have the feedback loop, they just get stuck inside the computer loop. And that turns into a whole dopamine cycle that we all know, everybody knows at this point, that is deeply dangerous. But if you can have it loop them back into the real world, that is a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Go ahead, Guy.
It's interesting with this in mind. I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm right now, both Eric and I have been, working with AI agents, right, on our computer that do stuff and can do stuff. I just am working on a project right now where I'm training the AI on all Heidegger's writing.
Wow.
And what my idea is, what I want to do is not talk to it and say what Heidegger would say, but hear me and ask me questions that open up dimensions that I'm not open to right now, right? I wanted to ask questions and evoke this sense of what I haven't thought of, what I'm not looking at. And that's the thing that I think I'm appreciating about what you're saying, because one of the things that I think that technology and social media has been a disaster for, right, is gone in way the wrong direction, is everything becomes known and evaluative, right, and optimized, but in a way that actually kind of makes our interest in the world withdrawal, right? This sense of technology actually opening us up to the world, and in such a way that we can hear the call of the world and participate with it, right? There's such a big thing. I'm just curious, how are we doing about that right now, in your view? From your view of what you see, how you see people working with AI, everything that you've heard about it, your experience of it, what direction is it going in? How do you think we're doing with AI as a society, as a culture?
I think it's a great question. I don't know. I think basically what I think is occurring, Hegel has that idea that the fear of error is the fear of truth. And basically history works by getting itself into something it didn't know it was getting itself into, and then it has to figure it out along the way. And basically, I think that's the situation. We've made something and we didn't really know what we were making. We kind of did, but you couldn't really fully know until you did. And now you have to respond to it, right? I think generally, I will say we're probably not doing great because our entire education system is about being able to plan the future, not to be prepared for the unexpected. That's a reason why I emphasize that, is because we've created something that is we've created something, and many people have said this, where AI is a paradigmatic shift, right? But how is it a paradigmatic shift is the question, right? It is paradigmatic because now everything basically has to be about our preparedness for the unknown, for that of which you can't plan ahead of time, as we were saying before, right? So we're kind of in the transition between basically AI kind of being the forcing function to force us in that direction, which I would argue is actually a more human direction. So in that way, going in that direction is positive, but we're still actually trained in the thinking of the previous paradigm. So you're having a kind of existential crisis. You're having a kind of freak out.
On the other hand, people love adventure so much, Daniel. I mean, it's the right framing for the concept, because that is what calls people forward, is the unknown, right? I mean, that's who we are.
I think for me, a lot of our moment, I'm glad you said that, is missing the right framing. It's a crossroads. It's an opportunity. Like, the unknown is an adventure. The unknown to people not prepared for it is scary, but the unknown for people who are prepared for it and longing for it becomes an adventure. And if you have a lot of people that are like, the meaning crisis, as Vervaeke says, it's very clear that the zeitgeist of the culture is longing for something like an adventure. They're longing for something like that. And the adventure is, in a sense, to find out what it is to be human, like to actually realize the fullness of the human being, which I think is realized in relation to these unknown unknowns. And so I would say our moment is lacking the proper framing to think the moment. So we are just seeing it as either an existential crisis, or people are responding to AI as being evil and don't have anything to do with it, or they're downplaying it. All of these can almost be seen. Let me put it this way. I see a whole lot of coping responses, or I see a whole lot of responses that are coping, or maybe even just kind of accepting that, the AI Moloch God will replace us all.
Which
right?
is coping. That's still coping.
Which is coping. I still feel like it's coping. I agree with it. The correct framing is one of adventure, of which calls us to a new kind of education. I think a new kind of conversation. I think a new kind of focus, a new view of what intelligence is for. Intelligence is not so much, in my opinion, realize its fullness in solving problems, but being prepared to respond to the unknown, more like a jazz improvisation, which we did at Eunoia for years, and I love that. I think that's where the human is found, and this is our age to rise to that occasion. We just need the framing to see it that way.
Yeah, it really does feel like we've been preparing for this our entire history. Well, that's a great place to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages with more from Daniel Gardner of OG Rose on the Leaking Timeline.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
800-826-4073. 800-826-4073. 800-826-4073. That's 800-826-4073.
Do you have diabetes? I'm sure you've seen the television commercials on the new CGM devices from all the top brands and how well they can help you manage your diabetes. Do you have the latest and newest in diabetes technology? The Diabetes Solutions Center carries most of the top brands, and the great news is your insurance may cover most of the cost. Call our special CGM hotline today, and our friendly representatives will help see if you qualify. You could get a new CGM from the top brands at little or no cost to you. Make living with diabetes easier. You are just one free phone call away to learn if your insurance covers the cost. So make this free call today to the Diabetes Solutions Center and learn for free how to get your new continuous glucose monitor.
800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. 800-520-8629. That's 800-520-8629.
I'm holding in my hand the American Silver Eagle dollar. It's a beautiful piece of American history, and it's 1 ounce of silver. Originally minted in 1986, these coins are a beautiful classic piece of American history, and they're a great investment you should add to your portfolio. The beauty of silver is that however much you have available to invest, silver is affordable and easy to acquire, with one coin costing around $30. So, if you choose to invest a few thousand in silver, you can get quite a bit for your money. And you'll have a tangible asset that you can hold, one you can be proud to own. Claim your piece of American history with American Silver Eagle dollars. Call the Silver Hotline right now.
800-620-1624. 800-620-1624. 800-620-1624. That's 800-620-1624.
Welcome back to the Leaking Timeline with Eric and Guy. We're here today with Daniel Gardner of OG Rose. Daniel, I'm just noticing that, as is so often the case, we're just getting to the meat of the conversation now as we're coming to the end of the show. So, folks, I want you to know that we're going to pick this conversation back up in the podcast portion of the show, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. Search for Leaking Timeline. You can also go to our website, leakingtimeline.com. You can find the podcast there. And Daniel, I wonder, do you have any URLs, anything you'd like to plug, anything that you'd like people to know about where they can find you?
Well, I appreciate you asking, and this has been a joy. OGRose.com. You can look up OG Rose. There are periods. OG Rose on Amazon for our books. YouTube, OG Rose, Substack.
I want to give a plug for his YouTube channel.
Aww.
Yeah. You even have this thing that you started called The Net, where once a week, a bunch of people just come together and you guys you have wild conversations. I love dropping in on that. And then you also have deep dialogues with a lot of different thinkers from a lot of different walks of life. And you are currently doing a series with your wife called Philosophizing Your Life, which is amazing.
So wait, this YouTube channel sounds amazing. You just have random people on and you just go deep?
We just have a good old time. It's like gathering on the porch at 5 o'clock, before dinner, and we just have a grand overlooking the field. So yes, we do that. OG Rose Conversations, The Net we just did episode 200 with wonderful people. Guy has come by. We love having Guy. And no, it's a real joy. And to me, it is a testament of how philosophy facilitates friendship and facilitates deeper relationships and a quality of life that I think the human comes out in.
Which, as you said, is where the philosophy is to be found.
Absolutely.
It's a great perspective. Folks, we'll be back here, same time, same channel on Sports Byline next week. And as I said, if you'd like to hear the rest of this conversation, go to leakingtimeline.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye for now.